You all for joining us this morning. I'd like to make a special thank you to our guest panelists, and we will do a quick introduction of everybody here. Let me see. Starting on this end, Mr. Brian Horn, Mrs. Karen Singleman, Mr. Daryl Shorston, Mr. Steve Gunter, Mrs. Debbie Lutz, and Mrs. Margie Amrose. As we begin to really absorb the history and some of the things that many of us have no idea what we've done through our Rotary Club in the last 25 years, I did want to set some parameters, some ground rules. First of all, I would like everyone to use the mic, because not all of us get to hear as well as others. Secondly, I am going to keep it to the clock. With Daryl Shorston on the panel, if you give him the mic, the meeting's over. Everybody gets probably a 2-minute thing. Daryl gets 90 seconds, max. And finally, despite how embarrassing some of the comments from your Master of Ceremonies, moderator, panelist guy that I am, no future fines and no give-backs. But I do have a question for each panelist, and we'll get their response, and then we'll kind of just go through a series of questions. There's some great stories, and we certainly don't want to miss elaborating on the stories. It's interesting and important to note that our first 3 presidents of our Rotary Club for the 25 years are here today. And then I think, Debbie, you were our 5th president, if I'm not mistaken. Faye Harriet is not with us. She's out in Arizona today. Faye was our 4th president. Lee Beal was one of the original members. We've got a number of our club members that aren't here today that are part of this illustrious group. But our very first president was Brian Horn. And Brian, if you would, I'm going to give you the mic and just give us a snapshot of what was it like to start a Rotary Club. First of all, we don't have, I thought we might have some of our younger members here, but if we roll the clock back, 25 years ago, we were in our 30s and maybe younger than that. I was in my 20s. Maybe sneaking into 40. So, it's a young group that has just kind of said, let's go do this. It's yours. How do we do it?
How did we do it? I really, gosh, it was 25 years ago, so it's hard to remember. They had a colonization group or something, Karen, do you remember?
It was the Dublin Rotary.
Dublin Rotary. My partner, Dave King, was the one that got me involved. And who were the other guys?
Roger Johnson, Pat Dugan, and then came to Margie.
Yeah, that's right, okay. Anyway, we had I think 2 or 3 meetings. We talked about this whole thing. And then we had to get together. I think we had to have minimum 25 people, I think. And it wasn't easy to get 25 people. Because all of us, again, were sort of doing different things and didn't seem like there was a lot of time to be able to do something like this. But we did, and we met at called Colorado Rose on Sawmill Road, just adjacent to 270 there. And now Flanagan's, and they still have the beach the volleyball thing. Anyway, and we moved different places after that. But it was good, and Ron White, remember Ron White?
Oh, yes.
Ron was the only member we had that had previously been a Rotary guy. So he was like our guru, how to do everything. But it was an interesting time. We had some good times.
Thank you, Brian. One of the real interesting things, and I'm going to take a liberty just with a little bit of history. Back when 25 years ago, when Rotary was started, Rotary was a business organization where you were allowed to have one. You could have one banker, one realtor, one attorney, one chiropractor, one anything, but only one. And Karen Singleman and I worked together. And we had a member of our executive group back then that was a member of the Dublin Worthington Rotary. They met at noon at La Scala, as I recall. And our president, Al McFarland, used to just absolutely go ballistic when this VP took off one day a week to go to lunch for a Rotary meeting. He hated Rotary. You belonged in the office. There is no way we're going to do another Rotary deal. And so all of a sudden, here comes Karen Singleman with this great idea to start a Rotary Club. And if I'm not mistaken, you might have been one of the very first women in Rotary. I mean, there weren't.
We were the first chartered.
Here?
We were the very first chartered club to have men and women, and that was really our task, was to start a club that was going to be unique, to have both male and female in it. So it was fun to do that, and that's really what we were trying to do, was find our friends, and the group that put it together was Brian, myself, Margie, and Sam Smiley, and it was get it going, exactly. So when I became president, which was right after Brian, we thought I was going to maybe be the very first president that was a female in Rotary ever, and totally coincidentally, Joanne Montgomery became president of the Reynoldsburg Rotary the exact same year. So the two of us actually ended up being the first women president in Rotary, but it was really nice having Brian stand up and talk earlier, because when he talked about the camaraderie and the friends, but then also all the good things we do, we did everything together. We became such good friends. We did everything in Dublin together. We were the close group. It was actually 27 is what we chartered the club with, but we were all best friends. We just had an amazing time.
Well, it really was the social group of Dublin. I mean, back then, 25 years ago, Dublin wasn't 45,000, 47,000 people. And so as we had just transitioned, I'm going to pass the mic to Margie Amrose, but we were just transitioning from the village to the young city, and nothing happens in Dublin without your Chamber of Commerce, and Margie, as you know, is our executive director of the Chamber. And so certainly, Margie, give us a little history of just the 25 folks that are here and the businesses that were touched, and how the Chamber has always been such an integral part of our growth. How was that involved with our Rotary group?
When they talked about the Rotary, the Dublin Worthington Rotary, they came to the Chamber one day after their noon meeting on Wednesday and asked. They said they were pretty well out of space, and they still had people who were interested in Rotary, and they thought there would be value to a AM or a morning Rotary. And so that was really Sam Smiley at that time was our incoming president. And so I happened to see Sam that same day, mentioned it to him. Brian and Karen came on no time at all. And Roger Johnson, who was with the Worthington Rotary, he was assigned to us. So he did the international thing, got all of the materials and all of those kinds of things. And we met at Oscar's, and when Paige talks about Dublin was a different place then, Oscar's had a pot-bellied stove and was a sandwich shop. And we would go and meet there. So one of the goals was to make sure we had women in this club, because that was not tradition 25 years ago, that there women would be in a Rotary. And we really wanted to balance it, to have just about the same number of women as men. It didn't completely work out that way. We probably had twice as many men. But good guys, so that was they're sitting here right now. So anyway, Dublin had become a city in 1988. And they became a city. They had 5,000, and the reason they knew they had 5,000, not being a census year, was they had 5,000 registered voters. So they filed for city status that same year and became a city. And Dublin, Ireland, at the same time in 1988, was celebrating their millennium. And that is 1,000 years of a taxing district. That's what their millennium was. Dublin, Ohio got involved in that. This Rotary was forming. The Chamber was involved. The city councils were involved. This Rotary was involved. and it just got better and better. So that's a little bit of the history about why we are here.
Well, we'll go from the business history to the party history and then back to some more business history. But there isn't anybody that can tell us more about the party history than Daryl Schwarzman. If I recall, we used to have something called Caddyshack.
That's right. Well, Caddyshack actually was in Karen's year, but we had two things in becoming a new club. You needed money and you needed members. That's pretty much what it was, and obviously we are an organization that gives back, and we always did that, and we partied. But Caddyshack became our #1 fundraiser. We started off at the Columbus Zoo. We got a big tent, and the idea that we had, I went down to a Need Madden's party, which is down in Kentucky, and they had the orchestra and a pretty wild band and what have you, and I said, man, this is fun, right before the big event of the Kentucky Derby. I said, why don't we do this? We have the tournament here. This would be a big draw, and Saturday night is kind of like the media night at the tournament. That's kind of the off night. Well, it worked out really well. We did very well for 2 years, and then my year came up, and the zoo said, no, you're killing our grass in front of the stage, and all the geese don't have any food to eat. And competing with their zoo farm, we were doing real well. When we went with the city of Columbus, Marjorie helped us, get through the politics of it all, and we said, we want to keep this going, so we went to Metro, and we had a ball, but we were very concerned about the rain. We had a tent, but now we got to get food trucks, we got to get electrical, we got to get plumbing, we got to do all this. So we didn't financially do as well, but it was a learning process. But also at that same time, we did the Dam Jam, where we had a stand, we were selling hot dogs and bratwurst and what have you. And as I said, I think Karen hit it, we were a family. If we didn't show up, we weren't going anywhere, because there were only 25 of us and only 80% of them will work. So we became that. But it was a fun time, a great history, and I certainly enjoy it, and that's why I'm here.
So the 80-20 rule still lives. Well, part of the balance of male and female in our Rotary Club was to get business women involved. And Debbie Lutz has, many of you don't know, served in a number of executive positions, from Columbia Gas, AEP, president of Duffy Homes, the home building company, a real estate developer, but an integral part of the business community back then, extremely well connected, and you can easily see why Debbie would have been a great president and wasn't. Debbie, give us a sense from the businesswoman's professional perspective of Rotary and the impact that had.
Well, let me just say that Brian, you mentioned Duffy Homes, and when I was there, we developed new plans, of course, new designs and houses, and customized everything. And Brian was our key architect. We used his firm to do that, and he pounded on me to join this club. And I was so busy, and I said, oh, Brian, it's an old man's club. And he just kept going and kept going, and I don't know, I left Duffy Homes and went to AEP. And AEP had an emphasis on community involvement. So, okay, I'll kill two birds with one stone. And thank goodness that happened, because this club has been an integral part of our lives. It's just been so important. But, the business, Paige asked about the business aspect. It's important that at that time, most people were employed. They weren't self-employed. It wasn't a tech world yet. And so corporations were an important part of that, and having them involved. But this club has meant so much to me personally and Steve and I, because we did become friends with everybody, and we brought friends into the club if they weren't Rotarians yet, and we became friends with people in the club, and we did so many things together, social and more importantly, service oriented. And we did something there's never been a group of so few people who did so much as this club over the 25 years. It's just incredible how many service projects, how many people have been helped throughout those 25 years. And it's because we were able to work together and be good friends and get things done.
One of the interesting things that are the great stories that we would remember in our history, wherever Tony and I were talking today about, if we lined up a story and we had all of our panelists write down what they remember about the story, how would it end up? And we all came to the conclusion, or Tony and I came to the conclusion, that first, everybody would agree that whatever it was their idea. The guy with a lot of ideas, Steve Gunter, and probably the resident historian, because he came in today with a notebook which was about this thick of all the goodies. Steve, take us back to give us one or two nuggets of just some original stories, or their very first couple of years stories that brought the group all together.
I think I found that I was number 33, which is about the early 90s, somewhere in there. So the club had already gone through its establishment, so to speak. And at that point, I learned what the term fresh meat meant. It was taking an unsuspecting new member and piling committees on top of it. So at that point, it just so happened, because of my business, I ended up doing a lot of the promotional materials, a lot of the PR publicity, et cetera, et cetera. There is a backstory, which is kind of humorous, to what Darrell was saying about Caddyshack. We realized early on that Jack had his deal, we ought to have our own. So consequently, the theme came up. I'm not sure who developed that, but we allowed that it most certainly reached out for a logo that had the memorial cup along with a gopher. It had to be too natural to not make that happen. So we pieced that together, and it's too bad I don't have any of the promotional materials, t-shirts and whatnot. Apparently they were all biodegradable. Consequently, we did this logo, and it started to leak itself out for the first event, maybe the second. And I don't have this, but I know very well of having received the cease and desist from the memorial with some serious words in it. So consequently, I responded and said, yes, we'll honor that. But I said, as a follow-up, we're more than willing, and I did say this, to relinquish our slogan for the event that they in turn could use. And that was, Caddyshack, not just another event, it's a way of life. So with that, I think it pretty much typified us at that point.
We have always marshaled, we've always volunteered. We just heard today from Michael, fundraiser where we get to drink beer. Brian, you and I were convincing about one of the more memorable marshaling experiences we had with St. Patrick's Day. Give us kind of a flashback.
Oh, I don't remember what year it was, but we were, we were all volunteering to do the parade work. And then we were going to sell food to make money. And I think we were set up in one of the schools or something. Anyhow, when is St. Patrick's Day? March? 17. Anyhow, the day came up, and it was literally up to Elizabeth. I mean, there was literally up to Elizabeth. And the whole thing was called off, and we had tubs and tubs of Irish stew that we had bought. And, what are you going to do with tubs and tubs of Irish stew? So I remember somebody put it in their truck and took it all down to Faith Mission. Anyhow, it was just, we talked about a financial disaster. That was one of them. That was a memorable day.
It was a fashionista day, as I recall, too. I think maybe very early 90s. I had just...
91.
I had just been president of the Chamber of Commerce. And I'm sure it was Margie that arranged it, but gave me the opportunity to as part of our marshaling, we all took a lead in that. And if you'll recall back then, golfers had the fancy Madras pants or green pants or some kind of thing. Our presidents, they used to get green jackets. Well, I had my green pants and a navy blazer, and at the start of the parade with my daughter, who at that time was about 5 or 6 years old. And about the time the parade was going to start, my blue blazer, you could not tell what color it was. And they took Kristen and they put her up in the fire truck with the Dalmatian dog and got to ride in the parade. But just back then, our parades were on St. Patrick's Day, and kids got out of school here in Dublin, and then that kind of faded away. But our Rotary Club was always the marshals managing the parade, and many of the things that we've done over the years. Presidents today go to the international conference. Did you all do that, and where? And then just pass the mic down. We get makeups to cover our attendance, which has changed over the times now. But what are some of the more interesting places that you all have gone in terms of a makeup? Where would?
Carol was the first one to go to.
Okay, well, we'll start with you. Where did you go for your conference, and what's the most interesting makeup you've ever had?
First one, and actually this is kind of a neat deal. It was when Russia was broken up, and they all became their own sovereignty, and they were, a lot of them were there at the international deal at good old Disneyland in Orlando, and it was just so cool to see the flags coming down from all the different countries. But then all of a sudden, the Russian flags came out. Instead of being one, now you have 10, and they're crying, and it was just a very emotional, and it was a cool atmosphere because you saw that the world was changing, and we're all here in Rotary, and we're all helping each other to kind of get through that. That was a very neat thing. I guess the best makeup I ever had, I went to the Dublin Worthington Rotary, and at that point in time, our membership was on a flat-out rise. We were killing it, and not the same Dublin Worthington. Obviously, they spun us off, but they were roasting me because they're like, "You're paying for their breakfast. You got to be doing something. We're not our membership. We can't get them to do any of this stuff, and you're doing it." And I said, "Well, it's good leadership. And it was a fun experience."
Karen?
Fun makeup. I'm not sure about interesting, but it is a funny one. And I really didn't do a lot of makeups because I enjoyed our club so much that I came every Friday. I was always here. And I made up a Rotary meeting at the Upper Arlington meeting, and I wish I can't remember where they met at the time, but Jack Hanna was the speaker. And this was absolutely crazy that he blindfolded a woman who was dressed in a business attire and would have her hold animals and try and guess what they were. And this one was this frog that was just blowing up. And of all things, it just exploded water out of this frog everywhere onto this lady. Really questionable whether you ever have Jack Hanna come
I don't remember it.
You didn't ever make a joke.
Stephen?
I can remember only one interesting makeup, and that was done in Florida. And Mike Close, I don't think is here, but he can vouch for Bike Week down there. So I'm amidst Harley Davidsons and long hair. And we're at North Ormond Beach to stay away from the fray. And we're waiting in line to this breakfast joint. And I see a sign that says, Rotary meeting at so-and-so. And it was the time we were there. And I said, I'm in line, I'm going to go downstairs. I went downstairs, signed in, and looked around, and I went from black and orange Harley Davidson to Sansabelt slacks and double knit all over the place. And believe it or not, I was the only guy there without gray hair. But I sat it out and did my makeup for Bike Week.
Well, the international convention during my year was in Nice, France, but we didn't go because we couldn't afford it. And I think for makeups, probably the most interesting was with Faye. We went to various clubs in the district when she was raising money to build a guttering and cisterning system in Ngali, Kenya. And so we visited a lot of clubs and got their support.
You know, I haven't done that many makeups over the years that I was active in the Rotary, but I have to kind of agree with Daryl. When you would go to the Dublin Worthington Rotary, they were always after you on the days that we were flying so high. That they never could figure out why we had so many people applying and quality people that were willing to work and do things to make their community a better place to be. So I don't know that it's an unusual experience, but it was always a pleasant experience.
We've often been told that one of the reasons that people want to join this club and we do so many things together and have such good friendship is because we drink a lot. And we sell beer or whiskey or scotch, and we've always been involved in beer sales. As much as we possibly can be, because it's such a money maker.
We just go to bed earlier.
Some of us do. We still have a few young members. I remember a makeup in Florida, and they sang, and they sang, and they sang. It's like, you can't be serious. Well, I'm disappointed. We invited Bill Wayhoff. Bill is one of our past presidents, and left our club to start the Worthington A.M. Club, which meets, I think, maybe even on Monday, I believe, but still very active in the Rotary there. But Bill was always known for his guitar, and he got the Rotary songbook, and we had a couple of meetings where Bill was here with the guitar, and our club was singing.
He even wrote a song about it.
That's right, and he was going to play that, right?
Yeah,
Julie? Julie sent him a nice invitation, and he said, "Can I bring my guitar and play my Rotary song?" And we said that would be great, and unfortunately had a conflict, which we're disappointed about. We've got one pass the mic for final comment, story, whatever. And Margie, I'll start with you.
Well, the final comment would simply be that this club has made a great difference in this community. No, absolutely no question about it. You volunteered when this city, this organization needed help. You've helped things grow. You're part of the reason that Dublin is what it is. So don't forget that and take pride in this 25 years.
And all of that's because of such great people. Like we've had the person who started the Dublin Chamber of Commerce. We have had the city school superintendent. We have had mayors. We have had, help me out.
City manager.
Who?
City manager.
City manager. Congress people, yeah. Presidents of their companies, key people, and they want to be part of this. And it was kind of like if you were working in Dublin, you kind of needed to be part of Dublin A.M.
Decided to come back and hook up again, and I guess I was thinking primarily I'm interested in finding what the change is from the time I was here first time around. But my guess is there's not much. It's all good.
Dark hair. We got hair though, that's good. For me, and it was very neat to see our new member come in today. We did an eloquent speech there, and I'll tell you what, you got it. I just remember when my kids were young, and one of the neat things we did, we had Don Messino, who was at OCLC, had this big truck, and we placed almost 10 families that were at Faith Mission. They were allowed to be there for a limited amount of days, and then they had to be placed in a house, and they came with nothing. A lot of them were battered wives and 3 children, and so we made an effort to make a difference. And from that, the food pantries, now we have the furniture pantries that come up. A lot of that was a need that needed to be done here, and we were a big part of that. They really needed us, and we made a difference.
I'm glad you talked about that, because we're talking about all the fun that we had, but we did do a lot of work, and we talked briefly just up here quietly on how we spent our weekends moving furniture and trying to get it to those that needed it. And it was because it was such a great cause. I love this club. I'm so proud of to see that it is still thriving and doing wonderful. And at the time that I left, my office moved downtown. Just challenges with getting up here, that type of thing. Like pass the baton on peak cushioning. Yeah, 3 children at that time too was probably part of it as well. But pass the baton on peak cushioning, and he still stays in touch with me with what's going on at the club. But I've been so proud to have him do as well as he has with this club and provide all the assistance that you have. So I know that you are very well respected here, and I thank you for all you've done for the club. So thank you very much.
Any questions?
Well, Josh, I don't know how to follow with all that, but it's very gratifying to me to see all of you here today and know that we really started this whole thing. And it is the furniture collection. Yeah, that was a good experience. That was a lot of work. And I guess that's the other thing I would express for you is always have your projects, but always have something where you physically participate. Don't just give your money. A lot of you have more money, and that's great, but hands-on is really good for getting to know one another and really getting a feeling of an accomplishment, that you're really helping someone else who is in need. We even have, sometimes the international things they seem sort of real esoteric, but we were actually involved, as I recall, I think. We had a member who was from India, and at the time, I don't know if it's still true or not, but he said that in the world, 80% of the people don't have potable water. And so we sponsored, I believe, several villages where we provided a reverse osmosis device to them. And somehow, I think it didn't even require power. I don't remember exactly what it was. But to me, that was a pretty amazing thing, to think that we here in Dublin, Ohio could reach out to some very small village in India somewhere and help those people. So thank you all very much, and continue all the good work.
I think the thank you is to the 6 of you for your leadership, for what you've done, for making the Rotary Club that we have today, and certainly to everyone in our audience for participating today and understanding a little bit of the history, but for carrying the torch. And the torch starts with good leadership, and that's certainly what we have here today, and we thank you very much.